So what's going on with these markets? Are they looking up or are they looking down? I know the S&P is hitting some all-time highs, and so is the Dow. But you know what? As old girl here is pondering the thought with her bicycle as she's getting ready to say, is it going up or is it going down? I'm going to tell you, it's looking like it's top heavy right now. I know Mark Fiber, he's pretty smart on a lot of stuff. He seems like he doesn't want to actually short the markets. You know, Greg Manarino says short them, but I wouldn't do that. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. But if I had to pick a direction, I'd say down. But Mark Farber says, you know, they might not go down because there's been so much money printing, right? You know, even though the money's not really getting in the economy, there's so much money printing. But, you know, both the earnings forecast and the growth forecast for China, Japan, and everybody else, you know, the United States and Europe, and it's just looking down. It's just looking down. As a matter of fact, in Japan, this is a chart of the S&P, basically. It's the S&P SPY. Actually, it's the index. In other words, you add a zero to this, that's your S&P, basically. So we're basically broke through a new record temporarily. And you know what I say to that? That's dangerous. That's dangerous because I'm going to point out why. Because, you know, am I just being negative? No, I'm not being negative. Just looking at reality. And like I said, neither the earnings forecast or the growth forecast look good. But, you know, if there was a lot of pressure on with all this money printing that's going on, if there's a lot of pressure on, there's a lot of people producing, then I could see, yes, the market's up. But actually, the unemployment rate is very high. And if you look at the percentage of people employed, actually that would indicate the unemployment rate is even higher than what the government says. So combine that with a lot of money printing by, you know, the Euro, the European Union, the United States, and Japan, and it looks like China's probably going to enter the fray. You know, you'd have to look at this and you'd have to say, here's the commodity index. How come it's not flying upward? How come it's just sitting flat? Now, it had a lull here in the summer. Then it went up when they announced QE, and it's been sitting flat for months on end. A lot of months, right, basically. And if the economy was cooking really hard, and you know that's why the S&P was going up, because you know the unemployment was down to 4%, and the commodities were reaching for the sky. Well, you could possibly think maybe, you know, that's why the S&P is high, and it could go higher. But it's like the S&P and the Dow and stuff are high, and everything else is not really doing too great. So, you know, this is the manufacturing index. It actually doesn't look too bad. You know, it's been below 50 good part of the year, and it's been creeping up, then it retracted some. But it's not doing that good. It's not that stellar. It's just a little, it's like 50.8 for the whole globe. But actually, if you look in Europe, it's not good. It's below 50. And, you know, the two bright spots on the global manufacturing index I was showing there, where it's just a little bit above 50, is China and the United States. And I suspect those numbers because China's main trading partner, the main place they export to, is Europe. And look at what the numbers are there. Look what's going on in Greece, Italy, and Spain, and of course Cyprus. Massive unemployment. So how the hell are they selling to people in Europe? China, right? In other words, these numbers for the manufacturing index globally, you know, when you look at Europe, it's like below 50. Globally, it's just a little bit above 50. When they average in China and the United States, it looks a lot higher, right? So I don't think the numbers from the United States and China are good. So why is the market so high? Why are the markets so high? So I'm going to tell you, it's probably a lot of garbage, you know. And, you know, as old girl here is looking out in the other direction, that's basically what you ought to be doing. Going where the other people aren't. And actually, I did point out yesterday that the reason gold and silver are not going up too much right now is because most of them, I know there's buying pressure from China, and China even has an interest in keeping the price low. I know all that. But most of the middle class is not buying it now. And when they start buying it because they got nowhere else to run to, that's when it's going to start going up. You know, it's only going to take, you know, a good significant percentage of people buying even 10 ounces of silver each. That's going to drive the price right through the roof. And I know yesterday, you know, this old girl here is pondering on a bicycle here. You know, I know yesterday Gainesville Coin's site was down. I remember who pointed that out to me on the internet. But, you know, the thing is, I don't know if you can make something out of that stuff too much because every time the site goes down on, you know, it's almost like there's something going on. But I don't know. It could have been Good Friday, maybe, because today's Good Friday, and the Pope was out there kissing people's feet and stuff from the prisons and stuff. Anyway, side note. But it's I sometimes I don't like getting off on those type of tangents. But I'm going to point out is very, very, very simply that when we're cruising along on these markets, don't expect, the sky to fall right away and silver to go to $400 an ounce. We figured out that that's a bunch of garbage. Right now it's might happen a few years from now for a little bit, for a short time period that silver can hit some crazy price. But it's not going to happen right off the bat. But even this year, when David Morgan's predicted $40 silver this year, and old girl here is cruising along. She's got the little peace sign up on her hand. I bet you, it depends on what happens with the Middle East, but the Middle East is looking like it's cooking up a lot more. I think, if that happens, silver will break through 50, no problem. And if it breaks through 50, it usually gets a little more steam past that. It goes to like 60, 65, 70. So it might have it might surprise us because I'm figuring the top for silver in 2017 around that time it's going to be $150 to $200 an ounce, and we're going to have a couple tops in between that time at least, maybe a couple little different peaks. So why wouldn't it go up to the next fib point of 70, 75, right? Pretty soon, like well before 2017. And I think if there's a war in the Middle East, that's what's going to happen. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you, be more practical about things than just silver. Like this bicycle thing old girl here has. It's one of those fold-up bikes. That's a pretty cool thing too, man. A lot of times, you can throw this in the back of your car or something like that, or store it in a closet, out of sight, out of mind, or make one of those little things you put alongside the house that's not even like a shed. It's not even taxable. It's like a Rubbermaid thing. You can fold up your bike and put it in there and save yourself a couple bucks on gas going back and forth to wherever you got to go. But they're enjoyable. But I got to say, with this stuff, with what I'm pointing out though is pure common sense. The European Union is down. That's China's main number one export place, right? So why is China's numbers looking pretty good to bring the rest of the globe up as far as the manufacturing index? And actually, if the manufacturing index was up, you would see something like this commodity index, which is this is the Commodity Research Bureau. It would actually be going up, with the markets. So I don't really trust these markets, but I wouldn't actually take Greg Manarino's advice about shorting the markets though, because Mark Farber says he's scared to do that. He says he thinks they're going to go down, but since there's so much money printing, everything could actually go up. But there's going to be some area that's actually, when everything looks like it's falling apart, there's always something that's super good and you don't know what it is. I'm going to tell you, though, I think the silver and the gold is going to be the thing that's going to play out, and that's going to actually have to be when there's a conflict with Iran. So, and that might be coming up soon. I don't know when the hell it's coming up. I keep thinking it's coming up right away and all this kind of stuff, and it never does. But we keep seeing warning signs about it. But, what other thing that's out there, though, too, is that, as we look to the future and we look to what's going on, in the world and what it's been going on, as we look back to Cyprus, looking back to Cyprus, hey, that's telling us banks aren't that safe. And, now even in Europe, they're talking about taxing people's money in Spanish banks and Italian banks. And then, you know what? I saw an article about it. They're even talking about it in Canada. No kidding. I didn't bring this up on here, but they're talking about it in Canada, too. So if they're talking about it in Canada, they're going to be talking about it in the United States. But, I just say this, you're still going to have to use a bank pretty much, you don't have to take everything out. But make sure you're split and you're below the thresholds, and don't put most of your money in the bank. You can still put money in the bank. But, if some of the people take out a significant portion of their money from the banks and start putting it in the gold and silver, that's what's going to drive the prices up. And the middle class is actually what's going to drive the prices up. So, things are looking good. Things are looking good for the people that got this stuff right now. So chill out, peace, like old girl here saying peace, and just cruise along for the ride because, you know, it's going to take you unexpectedly by surprise. And I'm going to tell you right now, even though I think silver is going to hit the peak in 2017, 150 to 200, maybe 400 or 500. I don't know what it's going to do. If it goes up well above 50 this year, I'm going to sell a little bit of the physical, just a little bit. But like I said, I'm keeping my eye open. I'm pretty much set in a lot of different things because I don't like just going to silver. I talked about food. Guns and ammo. I'm kind of like, I'm not really a gun nut. I think I just kind of, I think it's more like golf to me. I'm not into something where I think this, the red dawn's gonna come. It's more like golf. But you have to have like construction supplies, tools, and all this other garbage. So, the problem is with our stupid economy is this: we got a lot of bureaucrats that just don't contribute to the economy in any way. The paper shufflers, they work for the government or something. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when you got your silver and say you did sell a little bit of it this year because it went way to hell over 50, I don't want to get everybody all humped up about this, but if that could happen. Silver's a surprise element metal, and you sell a little bit. Think about getting some things that you need to get. It could be solar panels or whatever the hell it is. I keep mentioning bicycles. It could be fuel containers, diesel generators, and all this other kind of garbage. Because, they're smart to have. It's smart to have. You want to be independent. So if something really goes wrong, you'll be smooth sailing for you, just like old girl here cruising along by the beach.